Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville for November 27th, 2012. I'm Cayenne Anderson.
I'm Joe Lynch.
And I'm Lynn Weissman.
There you go.
Our guest tonight is no stranger to the Somerville community. A longtime resident of Somerville, she is also an award-winning cinematographer, producer, and editor of Weissman Productions. In addition to that, she is the co-president of Friends of the Community Path, a community organization founded in 2001 whose mission is to extend the Minuteman Bikeway to Lechmere and beyond. Here tonight to tell us a little bit more about her organization, some of the things going on, and why it is very critical for you to attend a meeting that is coming up this Thursday at the Holiday Inn in East Somerville. Please join me in welcoming Lynn Weissman to the show.
There you go.
Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
She even biked here in the rain, which is very impressive.
Ah, you give away the weather report.
That's right, but wait a minute. This is your first debut appearance. Second, is this
On Greater Somerville.
with Cayenne and Joe, right?
Yeah.
Yes, with Cayenne and Joe, yes.
Go ahead, do it to her.
Okay, so Joe has this thing where the new people have to turn around and give the weather report because it kind of kills time because there's,
But you really don't have to look out the window because Lynn, being an avid bicyclist, hence Friends of the Community Path, you biked here.
I like to call myself an extreme bicycle commuter.
So the weather tonight is?
It's beautiful and rainy and cold.
There you go. There you go. 2001. We've known each other since 2001. I can't believe this. You and your significant other, Joel Bennett,
co-founders as well as co-presidents,
of
Joel Bennett. Yep.
Friends of the Community Path, and we first met at one of the first meetings for one of our, Cayenne and I, favorite subject, the Maxwell Green. When we first started to connect on that stuff. The cleanup, of course, the cleanups on the community path. We were all down there with rakes and gloves and bags and plantings. Yeah. You've been at this for a while.
Yes.
And you have two little ones in training to take over the organization.
Yes, two.
But you're also co-president with Alan Moore, another avid. He's on the bicycle committee and the Friends of the Community Path.
Yes, and he's very involved in other bicycle-friendly activities as well.
So Cayenne said, she said we've got to have these folks on because they're gearing up for their big winter meeting this Thursday.
This Thursday,
am I right?
Actually, no. This Thursday.
Well, this Thursday, this isn't the big winter meeting. This is just a big meeting because it's meeting with the Green Line extension.
That's
And it's about the
on
design.
December 11th is our Green Line Community Path meeting. Sorry, there are some other MassDOT meetings
There's a
going.
bunch of meetings.
It's very confusing because there are a bunch of transportation meetings. MassDOT is having transportation conversations in a whole bunch of cities around the state.
Oh, I saw. There's one in Medford. There's one here.
There's one in Medford. Tonight is Medford. On Thursday is in Boston. So we also want people to come and speak out for the Community Path and the Green Line. And other things.
And where is that happening in Boston?
So in Boston, I believe the Thursday one in Boston, I believe that it's at 10 Park Plaza, the transportation building. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's where it is. There's something on our Facebook page.
Okay.
On Facebook.
So we don't forget, Lynn, the website for Friends of the Community Path.
The website for Friends of the Community Path is, I have it on my water bottle.
Look at this. We didn't want her to drink because we're not supposed to.
Shameful promotion.
And this is only water. This is only water, folks. But it's there. I love this. I have one myself.
Thanks. So my Got Path water bottle with a little T sign in the middle. It says www.pathfriends.org, and you tend to add an SCP for Somerville Community Path. Our website is a little bit outdated. We are working on updating it, and our Facebook page is a little bit more up to date.
Yeah.
So you can just.
So we're going to put links.
Yeah, we'll put links onto our blog,
on.
and we'll also put the important dates there because I think it's really important. The one on December 11th in particular.
Right.
Just because there's so much going on with the Green Line extension coming through Somerville and the community path extending with it. That's obviously a very important thing. But
why don't we let you take it over? We'll let you take it over. Give the folks at home, Lynn, a little bit of a framework of Friends of the Community Path, what you're trying to do, why these meetings are so important, why the funding is so important, and why it's so closely connected to the Green Line extension.
And
How's that?
As a little disclaimer, we did get our technical snafus from last week worked out.
We did.
And we are officially online now. Now we're going to be very tech savvy today.
So for all of you who watch multiple live shows here at Scat TV, I'm now on a mission with Wendy Blum, our executive director. I'm going to take her over to Cambridge Access Television in Cambridge. That looks like the NBC studios versus ours over here. That we rely on paper clips and scotch tape to keep things together, but we'll do it. We'll do it.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, so
Sorry.
we're going to switch over.
Great.
So that you can have a little visual here
Great.
as we're talking.
So I'll start with our mission. So our mission of the Friends of the Community Path is to basically connect the Minuteman Bikeway, which is about 23 miles of path network, with the Charles River Path Network, which is another 23 miles of path network. So you can see on the map, those are the brown lines. Above is the Minuteman and kind of beyond. And also below, the brown lines are the Charles River paths. You can also maybe see the green line in there, and that's the future Green Line extension. And along 4 of those stations, between Cedar Street and Somerville and Leechmere Station in Cambridge, is where we want the community path to run. And that would basically connect the Minuteman and the Charles River pathways, making for almost 50 continuous miles of path network.
And right now, Lynn, we go from Bedford to Somerville. That's the extension.
And it terminates at Cedar Street.
It terminates at Cedar Street.
So it terminates at Cedar Street. So the next section of the path to be built, which is actually funded, is the section from Cedar to Lowell Streets.
Runs right beside the new Maxwell's Green development.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's funded. It should be built in 2013. There's money. I believe the construction bids are being fielded right now by the city of Somerville.
And we did get the developers of Maxwell's Green on tape on one of our Greatest Somerville shows saying the trucks and the construction vehicles will be off that access road in the spring of 2013.
That's great.
Okay.
We'll be happy to have them off that access road.
Everybody will. All the neighbors will. Now, do we want to go to the next slide here?
Sure. So in 2001, as you mentioned, we founded the Friends of the Community Path. These are some different milestones, just to sort of give you an overview of our history. In 2005, MassDOT, which is the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, they, when the Green Line had to be built, and it kind of resurfaced during that time, and at the same time as we were planning the community path. And it's in the same corridor, the same right-of-way as the Green Line extension.
It runs adjacent to the commuter rail system.
Adjacent to it, and actually sharing some of the rail corridor. So we knew that it had to be built, it can't be built separately from the Green Line because they share infrastructure, heavy machinery, bridges, and so forth. So MassDOT said no to the community path with the Green Line. They said they would not build any of it with the Green Line. By 2010, the Green Line design actually includes the community path, here the CPX, to Inner Belt, which is near Brick Bottom. So they'll design it until Brick Bottom, but they won't finish that last bit of design to Leechmere, and that's something we've been working on.
And you're also crossing out of the confines of the city of Somerville once you get there. You're crossing into Boston.
Well, into Cambridge.
Into Cambridge.
This is so
From
that
Inner Belt to Cambridge to Boston.
Yes,
Yep.
from Inner Belt to Cambridge, and then there are already existing paths at North Point that lead you to the Charles River, so you can get to Boston from there right now.
Okay, sure.
So in 2012, the Green Line has said, can you go back a little bit?
Sorry.
In 2012, the Green Line design team has said that they will build the whole community path foundation to Inner Belt. Not only will they design it, they'll build the foundation so that nobody has to go into the right-of-way later to complete that upper part of the community path.
The light dawned on Marblehead that they probably did not want to have any construction while that Green Line became active. They didn't want to bring in additional construction material. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they can't interrupt service to do that. Well,
That's why they're constructing the Green Line. They have to construct that entire system and keeping the commuter rail running.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's taking a long time, is that they literally they only have a limited window of time when that can be constructed. So I would assume it's a similar thing here. Okay,
Yeah,
next
so,
slide.
So no. So in
Oh, okay.
addition to that, so not only are they building the infrastructure for the path up to Innerbelt, they're actually adding path segments at 4 Green Line stations that connect to so that the path will actually connect at all 4 Green Line stations, but we need to fill in the parts in between now. So and the 4 stations that the path will run along are Lowell Street Station, Gilman Square, Washington Street Station. Those stations are all in Somerville. And then crossing over, there'll also be path connections at Leechmere. The North Point Development is building those paths and already has some beautiful paths there, as we mentioned, that lead to the Charles River and even to the new bridge, the North Bank Bridge going to Charlestown.
For a reference point for some of our folks who cross over in front of the Museum of Science, if you look off to the left, you will see those paths have already been completed and take you down into the Spalding Rehab area down in there.
Well, you can't
Yep.
get across yet to the Spalding Rehab area.
That's your next mission.
Well, there are actually plans to build along the drawbridge there a walkway, but that's separate from our mission.
Okay, so these are your additional milestones.
So in 2008, a Somerville Junction Park was built. It's a tiny section of the community path.
At
Right,
the
right.
end of Woodbine Street.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
right
Near the
bet-
Vernon Street Studios.
between the VNA, the Somerville VNA, and Central Street.
Right.
So that part is actually built, and we hope that the next sections to be built after the Lowell Street, the Cedar to Lowell section is built, that we could connect Lowell Street to Somerville Junction Park and then go to Central Street.
And this,
That's our
Lynn,
hope.
just as a point of reference for the folks at home, this is where it starts to get tricky.
Beyond Central Street, it's probably trickier.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to switch back.
Because we need to be part of the Green Line.
Right.
We're not sure. We've asked the engineers, and we think that it's possible that we could do the Cedar to Central Street section. Sorry, the Lowell Street to Central Street section without getting in the way of the Green Line building or service, or that we could do it without impinging on the right of way.
Okay.
In a way that wouldn't work for the MBTA.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, the folks at Homeland, you and the folks at Friends of the Community Path and the Bike Committee folks and the City of Somerville, you've all been working on this for so many years. People often ask me, how are they going to coexist with the commuter rail, the Green Line system, and then bicyclists and pedestrians all within that corridor? And that's kind of what I mean by it gets tricky. Once you lose the old existing right-of-way, old-timers like me remember when the freights used to run behind your house, on the existing path, went right through the center of Davis Square. So people have a little bit of visual problem trying to figure out how that's going to get from Lowell Street all the way into Innerbelt.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of, I'll let obviously Lynn speak, she's the expert on this, but I mean, one of the things I will say, just obviously having been involved with the Green Line extension project, is that there are on the website, they have a lot of the documents and a lot of the preliminary designs of the path, which really show you pretty well about how this is going to actually work. It is very, very tricky, and Alan, yourself have contributed to the design that are now in place because of the you guys and your expertise. So, but it is tricky, but it's
Right.
it's readily available if people want to find it.
We should also not forget our friends at STEP.
Yes.
I don't want to get an angry phone call from Ellen Reisner. So the STEP folks, yourself, the Bike Committee
Yeah.
folks, the city,
Very,
you've
very
all been
vocal.
working towards this goal of coexisting with the Green Line when it gets built.
Right, and
Yeah.
in 2005, it was really the work of STEP and also Conservation Law Foundation and some other groups that really made sure that the Green Line happened. I mean, it's a mandated clean air
Right.
project. It's a mandated project. The state is required to do it. So it was because of that, and we work very closely with STEP. They're a wonderful ally of theirs. So on the December 11th meeting, which is from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Holiday Inn
in East Somerville.
In East Somerville on Washington Street, the Green Line design team, which is they've done a design from 0 to 30% for the Green Line, and this meeting focuses on the community path design within the context of the Green Line design. And they will talk about, each section by section, to talk about the Green Line design and especially the path design and how it will connect to the Green Line and, eventually it will...
And how those neighborhoods will connect to the path.
Exactly.
And how the neighborhood folks will get to the Green Line stations. Yeah.
Well, it really, a part of what it is because AECom has now taken over the 30% design, and they're going to be taking it into the construction, or to 100%. And so there's a lot of catch-up there. There's a lot of years of meetings, of design changes, et cetera. And, my office, obviously, we took it through the community process, so the overall design intent will remain in terms of, all the work we did with the community. But it is important for them, AECom, to get out there and really hear your concerns and reiterate them, so it strengthens what we already have and makes it better. So that's...
Want to move on to your ultimate goal here? To Boston and beyond?
To Boston and
beyond,
to
yeah.
Leechmere beyond?
Great. So
Okay.
One of the things that we're focusing on right now is that because the Green Line is funded, people may or may not know. People may or may know that the Green Line is funded to be built, but in phases. Not all the phases are funded yet, but one of the phases that's funded is the Green Line from Leechmere in Cambridge to Washington Street in Somerville, and that will be built from 2013 to
That's
2016
next year.
or so, starting next year. It should be starting to be built. That is the projected timeline for the Green Line being built. Now, within that section, there's a missing link of the community path. The path is partially built from Washington Street towards Brick Bottom, but then there are some train tracks that the path would need to cross to get over to Leechmere Station.
It's that whole area, Lynn, down in the inner belt area that we call the spaghetti strings.
The spaghetti screens,
Right.
the Fitchburg Crossing.
It's all kinds of track systems down in there.
Yes, there
Yep.
are a lot of track systems down there. So it's a fairly complicated. I'm no engineer. We have
See
a
if
lot
we
of.
can show that up there. There it is.
So
This gives you an idea of the complexity of that.
so you can see the community path there approaching, kind of from at sort of
The north of the picture.
would be Washington Street Station. And then you can kind of see there's a green area that says Green Line Yard, I think. And that's kind of where the train yard is. And you can see the Green Line, literally a green line, running over.
The commuter rail.
The commuter rail, and there are a whole bunch of tracks over there. And we want the path to cross over with the Green Line to reach the North Point paths.
When you say crossover, you're thinking of something elevated.
Well, so, the MBTA has kind of been interested, well, let's say that MassDOT has pretty much said they won't design this section. But we're saying you need to do this section because you have to connect to Boston. I mean, it doesn't make sense not to design this section. Also, the state is kind of under a requirement not to preclude the design of this section because there was a Massachusetts EPA certificate in 2010 that said that this design cannot be precluded by the Green Line design. But because it's so complicated in there, you pretty much need to design the path almost to not preclude its design because there's so much complication. So we have been presented with an option, sort of a concept rather than a design, from the Green Line design team, HDR Gilbane, which we like working with them very much, but their scope of work did not include this crossing. Although I think because we have been very vocal that this design cannot be precluded by the Green Line design, that they presented to us a concept of a crossing of the tracks for the community path here.
When you say crossing, are you talking at grade or
A bridge, a
over?
very high bridge. It would have to be
Yeah.
a very high bridge.
To accommodate what's going underneath it?
Well, and what we're interested in doing, and we're working on plans, preliminary plans, to actually get the community path over these tracks along the Green Line viaduct, and then splitting off the viaduct to the North Point paths, so that we won't have to have a bridge that's 50 feet high in the air, and it also wouldn't be so close to brick bottom.
Now, here's a question. Are there any, I'm certain Alan will answer this, or you could, but any precedences of this that have taken place, and where have the, probably in Europe somewhere, I would think.
Well, there are precedents. There are local precedents in the sense that we talked about before. So there are actually plans now for the drawbridge going to the Spalding rehab to put a walkway along that MBTA drawbridge, so that there would actually be, a bike pedway right next to the tracks as part of the drawbridge. So locally, there's a precedent in terms of their planning that, and that I think is supposed to be built by 2015 or 2016. So locally, there's that precedent. Additionally, there is a precedent there's a bridge from Portland, Oregon to Milwaukee that's being planned, and they have paths on that bridge. It's a light rail bridge. It's very similar in lots of ways to what we want, and there are paths connecting to light rail on both sides of that bridge. They also were funded through federal funding.
Is that a drawbridge or is that stationary?
That's a stationary bridge.
Okay.
And we talked to somebody who had been involved in that effort for this Portland-Milwaukee bridge connection, and we asked, was it hard to get the powers that be there to agree to a bike pedway along this light rail bridge? And his response was, it would be heresy in Portland not to plan a bike pedway with any kind of bridge here.
Yeah.
So here we're fighting to get this bridge with the light rail, this bike pedway. But in other places, I think people think, well, that's the assumption. You wouldn't bother building a bridge without having a bike ped route.
Pedestrian access, bike access.
And if we have also a bike ped bridge as part of the Green Line viaduct, this is something very new we're working on. If we have it attached to the Green Line viaduct, it can potentially act as emergency egress for that viaduct. Should, say, a train get stuck up there.
Get out of the train and use the walkway.
Get out of the train and use the walkway.
Instead of having emergency folks with ladders trying to get you down off of a viaduct.
Exactly.
Let's take it one step further. I know that there is a lot of stuff that's going to be covered at that meeting next week.
On the December 11th meeting?
On the December 11th. What's the general sense that you want to get across to the folks here in Somerville? I mean,
why should they get involved?
Why should they get involved at this point? You've done a lot of the legwork. STEP has done a lot of the legwork. Why is it important for them to show up at that meeting?
We need people to show the state that everybody wants this bike ped bridge that will get us into Boston. And, it's a way that everybody can do that. I mean, people of all ages and all abilities can use a bike ped path. We call it a community path because it's not just for bikers, it's for the whole community. And actually, bikers are just a minority of the users on the paths around here. So you know, if people, this path is not a done deal. A lot of people think, oh, you know, the path is getting done. But it's not getting done. Parts of it are getting done.
So you're saying this piece, and I'm showing this slide only because it gives you a little bit of the overview with the, you know, Boston and Somerville and Cambridge, and you see where the circle there is. That's the main piece that you're talking about, the piece that is
missing. That's the missing link, yep.
So you're definitely, you're stating that people going to this meeting where the Green Line, the integration of the Green Line stations and the path will be discussed and gone over, it's important to show support so that everyone
Right.
knows that
Right,
we really
because
want
we
this.
all remember, I mean, I know Lynn was there and Cayenne was there at the World Series, famous World Series 2004 meeting up at Somerville High School.
I had babies then. I
People
wasn't.
just came out of the
Yeah, they were
woodwork to
hissing.
support the Green Line. And what's important to most of us, I'm a member of the, full disclosure, I'm a member of the Friends of the Community Path, have been for a long time. What's important for people to realize is while you're fighting for the Green Line, and people are kind of sitting back and saying to themselves, okay, well, phase one, it kind of got broken up. You know, they're going to do the eastern part of the city with Union Square and Washington Street first. It's equally important to keep fighting for the funding and for the significant and cohesive design of that community path all the way into Boston. Where you have it coming from Bedford, out in the western part of our suburbs, Bedford all the way into Davis Square, now going to be extended from Cedar to Lowell, next step Lowell to Central, and then beyond. It's important that the community of Somerville, Cambridge, and Boston walk in lockstep on this thing, that this is what we want, this is how you should design it.
It's such a valuable part of our community. I mean, the segment that goes from Cedar to Davis Square, I mean, I'm on that a lot on the entire path, and I think that there are so many people that use that path. Bikers, dog walkers,
Right.
you know, everybody, and it's...
You just think of it this way, folks. If we took the thousands of people off the community path, if we got rid of the community path, where would those people be? You'd have more pedestrians on our streets, you'd have more vehicles on our
Safety
streets, and you'd
issues.
have more bicyclists on our streets. So it makes sense to have the community path built in conjunction with the Green Line. You have some stuff, Lynn. You are great. I mean, you are so passionate about
No,
this
this
stuff.
is great.
but
It was easy to have her as a guest because I
we
knew
need to give
she would bring
Cayenne a couple of
presentation.
minutes before we sign off.
We have a couple
but-
minutes before we sign off, but you're obviously, your goal is to make sure that everybody knows about the community path, the Friends of the Community Path. Go on our website. We'll have all the links that you need to know about.
Including the meeting information
And the
on
meeting
11th.
information.
Yep.
So there are a couple of small little items that we want to talk about before we go. The Illuminations Tour, which is scheduled for December 15th, 2012. It's a Saturday. Joe and I will be tour guides on one of the trolleys. So
I will not sing.
and we will be wearing our holiday sweaters. So do go down to the Blue Cloud Gallery in Ball Square and buy your tickets. They go on sale today, and they will sell out, especially if Joe and I are tour guides. And then we will also be having a holiday special the week of December 11th. Not sure exactly when, but Joe and I have a special guest coming in, and it will
Yep.
be a wonderful treat. And again, maybe our holiday sweaters will be making
And
an
while we've
appearance.
been talking about the December 11th importance of that meeting, we may not even
Oh my
be
goodness!
going to
I
that
didn't
because
even- no,
we
but
have
no,
a
the
special
week of
taping.
we will be
The
going
week of
to the
11th.
meeting, and then we'll be having our show. But anyway, we want to thank our guest, Lynn Weissman, for stopping by our Greater Somerville tonight and telling us all about the Friends of the Community Path. Make sure you go out to the December 11th meeting at the Holiday Inn from 6 to 8. And that does us for here at Greater Somerville. Thank you for joining us.
Stay safe, stay informed. Thank you, Lynn.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.